All right. Good morning, traders. Good morning, new trial members. Thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and start the monologue. And all right, today is May 8th, 2025. My name is John Kerrigan. I am the lead instructor here at BYOB Trading. My SPY pivot this morning is 559.40. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. All of the Fab 5 are in daily uptrends. SPY QQQ made outside days yesterday, closing over bullish traps over their hooking 17 EMAs. IWM made an inside day, closing inside a bullish trap over the hooking 17. Diamond Dow made a higher high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap over the hooking 17. FNGA made a lower low and a lower high, closing over a bullish trap over the hooking 17. SPY closed with a 2-hour downtrend and a 10-minute uptrend. Gold is in a daily uptrend. Gold made a lower high and a lower low, closing over a bullish trap over the 17. Silver in a downtrend, made a lower high and a lower low, closing under a bearish cross under the 17. USO still in a downtrend, made a lower low and a lower high, closing under a bearish trap below the 17. UNG also in a downtrend, energy in a downtrend here. Made a higher high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap over the flat 17. US dollar index still in a downtrend. We like that. Just need some news on those tariffs. Take them off the table. Do something. Don't even talk about them. All right, SPY dollar in a downtrend, closed near the 99.87 area. SPY max pain is 560 with a put to call ratio of 1.2 puts to each call that expires today. Hey, good morning, Lenny G and JW. All right, I'm going to go take a look at some charts. I want to thank everybody out there in podcast land, digital land, cyber land. Thank you for finding the value in my content. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for following me. Appreciate that. Good morning, Melinda. All right. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the kind words. It inspires me to keep going on and on. All right. So here's SPY on the 10-minute, along with subscriptions, by the way. All right. Anyways, 10-minute chart. Got a 10-minute. You can see the 3 EMA. That's the yellow line. It's up over the white line. See the white line? There, see how they cross it? Over the white line. All right. So that's 10-minute uptrend, space between the 3 and the 8. The yellow 3 is on top of the 8. 10-minute uptrend going into the close. 2-hour chart. 2-hour chart, we have a 2-hour downtrend, but it's crossing right there. Okay, so they're ripping back up. You can see already in the pre-market. All right, so we got overhead resistance up here around 567.50. I think they hit that in the pre-market. All right, and I would expect consolidation to ensue from here. So 567.50, maybe another trip back down to 556. We'll see where they want to go. All right, so there's SPY on the 2-hour. Possible. Maybe they've worked it out with all of this trash they put us through in the last 2 days. We'll see. So there's SPY 2-hour downtrend converting to an uptrend right here, right now. All right, there's the 2-hour chart on SPY. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Got an outside day, higher high, lower low, closing over a bullish trap over the 17 EMA. Notice the 17 kind of hooking here. See it turning from red up to green. So price action, higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap over the 17. Price action, knocking on the door of the bullish zone. That's the upper third of the quad lines. Okay, still in the neutral zone, still in an uptrend. Higher low, here's a low, that's a higher low, higher high. Here's a high, higher high. Still in an uptrend, all right, and in the neutral zone. Okay, very close to getting to the bullish zone. All right, they're knocking on the door. We'll see if they can get it done. So there's SPY on the daily chart. On the 2-day chart, 2-day chart, we're still in a downtrend. Going to be in a downtrend till we take out that high. Same with the 3-day chart till we take out that high. On the weekly chart, downtrend until we take out that high. Monthly chart, we're still in an uptrend here on the monthly chart. That is one huge tail. I'm just saying, all right, usually what follows that is a nice green candle. Okay, we'll see what happens. All right, so there's SPY on the monthly chart. Let's go take a look at QQQ. Actually, let's take a look at the game plan before we go off to QQQ. SPY pivot this morning, same thing, 559.40. All right, and we have a green erases red event. Of course, it already happened over 561.80. Okay, over 561.80 was the green erases red event. We have a red erases green event underneath 557.50. Okay, so I don't know if we're going to get that today, but usually the second move down is pretty fast. All right, from the consolidation. We'll see what happens. So we had a little downtrend line right here. You can see we broke out of that. Had a little uptrend line right through here. You can see we obeyed that. Okay, notice no rubber band candles here in the uptrend line was broken on that uptrend line. For SPY options for today, I like 1 DTE and 8 DTE Friday options. I like them $5 to $15 out of the money. I also like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP and 10-minute downtrends over VWAP. So they gapped right up into resistance. Chances are they're probably going to check it one more time before abandoning the area. Look for maybe a triple top and then a hard fall, possibly back down to this base. All right, we'll see what happens. So there's SPY. That's the SPY game plan for this morning. All right, look for a couple tops up here. If they can't break through that 567.50 area or take out these highs over here, 570. All right, good chance we probably come all the way back down. We'll see what happens. Will it happen all in today? Probably not. But just be prepared for it in case consolidation is not completed. So there's SPY on the 10-minute chart with the game plans. Take a look at QQQ. QQQ game plan. Okay, pivot 481.30. All right, above it I'm a bull, below it I'm a bear. Red erases green underneath 479. Green erases red. Of course, we've already done it over 483.90. Same thing's happening in QQQ. Look for them to make a possible triple top and then maybe a hard trip down. We'll see. They've already made one trip up there in the pre-market, so maybe only two and then a hard trip down. We'll see what happens. QQQ game plan, that's for today. Let's take a look at QQQ on the daily chart. And you can see, same as SPY, we got an outside day. We closed over the bullish trap. We closed over the hooking 17. We closed over the all-time high anchored VWAP. We closed over the uptrend line. So there's QQQ. We're over the midpoint, and we're not in the upper third. We're not in the lower third, so we're neutral. We're still in an uptrend because we made it. Here's a low. We made a higher low. There's a high. We made a higher high. So we're still in an uptrend on QQQ. Let's take a look at FNGA. All right, FNGA. There's a high, made a higher high. There's a low, made a higher low. So that's an uptrend there. Still caught underneath all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the pink line right here. Okay, price action not in the lower third, not in the upper third. So that's neutral. All right, trying to cross the midpoint here. All right, it's going to be a lot of consolidation up through here. So you can see they're working their way through it. All right, so there's FNGA on the daily chart. Let's take a look at IWM. All right, IWM also in an uptrend, a weak uptrend. All right, because they had a very shallow one candle pullback. So I'm calling it a weak uptrend because here's the low below the 17. And then they made a higher high. All right, so higher low, here's a low, higher low, high, higher high. All right, on IWM daily chart. Okay, still, they just crossed the threshold here about 4 days ago, breaking out of the bearish zone. That would be the lower third. Okay, so they're in the neutral zone right now. Okay, they're still underneath all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the top pink line. I got to take this one off. Where does that go to? Let me just edit this. Right there. Okay. All right. So that's top pink line up there. All right. Still underneath the all-time high anchored V. Double top. All-time high anchored VWAP for IWM. All right. So price action, weak uptrend, and just crossed the threshold out of the bearish zone. So not really impressed yet. IWM still got a lot of work to do. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Diamond Dow got let's take a look at this candle. Looks like a higher high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap over the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP right here. Over the downtrend line, possible break of the downtrend line. I don't see any rubber band candles getting broken though. All right, so there's Diamond Dow on the daily chart. Okay, not in the upper third, not in the lower third, so that's neutral. Got a high here, they made a higher high. Got a low here, they made a higher low. Okay, so that's an uptrend on Diamond Dow in the neutral zone. All right, still a little bit of work to do. Not over the all-time high anchored VWAP. All right, so we actually did all of them right there. Okay, let's take a look at technicals. Technicals, you can see we're hanging out in the buy zone again. Let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 days up here in the buy zone. That's some consistency. All right. Staying up here that long, that tells me we're probably going higher. All right. So after we get through the consolidation that we're experiencing, as long as the FNGA is on board, that's a whole lot of buying up there. So I see us going higher eventually. All right. That's a lot of buying. That's a lot of buying. That many consistent days. All right, so that's looking good. All right, for the market, if there's that much interest in small caps and mid caps. All right, just saying, 12 days of consistent buy zone. All right, instead of chomping around, that's interesting. Yeah, well, all of this moved back up there, gave us a tail on the monthly, yes, but the fact that over the last 12 days, yeah, you're right. That did give us the tail on the monthly. That's a lot of buying right there. All right, so T2123, all right, on the 15-minute chart, we're making higher lows and higher highs. Okay, again, we got a bullish gap up here that hasn't been filled. We got a bullish gap here that hasn't been filled. We're up over the hooking 200 SMA. All right, T2123 is really looking good. We're just back here at the midpoint. Okay, on the bigger time frame, we still haven't made any higher highs on the bigger time frame, but on the 15-minute chart, it is a nice rally back to the midpoint right here. Got a huge gap right through here. All right. You could put a couple trains through there. You could take all of New York subway system and drive it right through there. All right, so got a huge gap overhead. All right, like to see us start filling part of that gap. There's T2123. On the 15-minute chart, we're looking good. Okay, let's take a look at the 3-bar chart. Okay, for the 3-bar chart, put in 3 more green candle bars. Okay, but in order to make a higher high, we got to come all the way back up here. See, that's the only high that peaks through the 17. All right, we got to come all the way back up here and take out that high. All right, things are looking good so far. We beat this little high here and this little high here, but in order to make the higher high, we got to take out this right here. So that'll be interesting if we can get that done. Currently, 15-minute chart, still in a downtrend. Okay, that is a bear flag. It's a little mini bull flag inside of a bear flag. But the good news is they're not falling apart. All right? It's possible they could come back up here and embrace this fading 200 SMA. We'll see over the next 2 weeks. Let us get through this consolidation first. I'm seeing a lot of good news here on T21.22. I think it's possible that we run up there and re-challenge the all-time highs in SPY. We're going to need to get on top of this 200 SMA first. All right? And we're going to need a lot of leadership out of FNGA or FNGB. All right? This is the one that jerks the market around. Okay? This is the 10 securities inside SPY and QQQ that are so heavily weighted. All right? It doesn't matter what the other 480 are doing in the S&P or the other 90 in the NASDAQ 100, okay? It just doesn't matter. When these move as a pack, they can jerk the index with them. All right, so for price action yesterday, you can see a little bit of selling off, not much. They didn't fill any bearish gaps, okay? Just a bull flag, up and holding the higher ground. So just selling from the beginning of the day almost to the end of the day. Then FOMC came in and they liked what they heard. Either that or the president spoke and they liked what he said. So there's FNGA right there. All right, holding the higher ground over the 200 SMA and over this high anchored VWAP. I don't know where that high is. I think it's right up here. It's not the all-time high anchored VWAP. But anyways, up over that high anchored VWAP. All right, so looking good on FNGA, FNGB. They're going to change their name to FNGB, I hear. We'll find out. Again, bullish gaps aren't getting filled. That's a bullish environment. Holding the higher ground, that's a bullish environment. Up over the 200 SMA, also a bullish environment. And making higher highs and higher lows, also a bullish environment. Okay, so there's FNGA, FNGB on the 15. Let's take a look at some sectors. Start off with the energy sector. Energy sector not looking too good. All right, energy sector lower high, lower low, closing under the bearish trap under the 17. In the bearish 1/3. Okay, so that's bearish down there in the lower 1/3. Price action still underneath this 12-month high anchored VWAP right there. Underneath downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2, and the midpoint still in a downtrend. Okay, here's a low, there's a lower low. There's a high, there's a lower high. All right, so XLE still in a downtrend. Let's take a look at USO. And not getting any help from the USO. Okay, so there's a high, there's a lower high, there's a low, there's a lower low. Okay, in order to negate this downtrend, they got to come back up here and take out those highs right there. Okay, they could do it if they want to. USO on the daily chart, still down here in the lower third. That's bearish, still in a downtrend. Nothing to be seen there. UNG. Okay, UNG making lower lows. Here's a low. They made a lower low. That put them in a downtrend. Okay, price action, lower high, lower low, downtrend. Currently in a bear flag. That is a pullback in the downtrend right there. Okay, we have a downtrend line. If they happen to break the downtrend line, pull back, make the higher low, all right, there's a chance coming back up, coming back up through, taking out the high, we have an uptrend. So there's UNG on the daily chart, still in a downtrend over this 12-month high anchored VWAP right through here. Okay, not in the lower third, not in the upper third, just neutral and still in a downtrend. Let's take a look at GLD. GLD, lower high, lower low, closing over a bullish trap over the 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. In quadrant 4, that's making higher highs and higher lows. That's in an uptrend and bullish. Silver, lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish cross under the 17, over this 6-month, 12-year high anchored VWAP right there. Price action barely hanging on to the upper third right here. So still bullish, but still in a downtrend. All right. They got themselves in a downtrend by making lower lows. Here's a low. There's a low. There's a low. There's a low. They made a lower low than all of those. Okay. So in order to negate that downtrend, they got to come all the way back up here and take out this high. All right. They failed to do it so far. But it's possible that they pull up, make a lower high, make a higher low, and then rip back up through and take out the lower high. That would put them in an uptrend. Currently bullish, but in a downtrend technically, but not moving down. They're moving up, and they've held the higher ground. That is a bullish characteristic. Okay? That's a bullish environment when price moves up and holds the higher ground. All right? Holding that higher ground is key. All right? So this is looking good for SLV. Just got to make a higher high. Again, that's just a label, that downtrend status. Okay? Probably need to draw a line in here. Okay? In other words, breaking this downtrend line, that would be nice for silver. Can they do it? We'll see. All right, looking like they're going to get a wedge pennant, okay, holding this higher ground over this 6-month high anchored VWAP. Probably going to see a pennant build up, and then when price action gets pushed and compressed so much, like a wet watermelon seed, when you pinch it between your thumb and your forefinger, it's probably going to squirt out to the downside or to the upside. But with this holding this higher ground, I would expect it to spin out to the upside. So there's silver building out a pennant wedge right now. All right, let's take a look at SMH, semiconductors. Semiconductors just left the bearish lower third. They're in an uptrend because here's a high, they made a higher high. There's a low, there's a higher low. So that's a uptrend right there. They just left the bearish zone. That's the lower third. Okay. Yesterday's candle looking kind of healthy. Higher low, higher high. Closing over a bullish trap. Over the 17. Kind of hooking here. In the neutral zone. And still underneath. Downtrend line 1. And all-time high anchored VWAP. So still got a lot of work to do. Alright. There's a downtrend line here, which they seem to have broken through right there. All right. So there's downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2. They still have to get through up here. There's SMH. It's looking good. All right. I like the idea they're moving up and they're holding the higher ground. We haven't made any real significant higher highs. Getting over this midpoint, that would be huge. Getting on top of all-time high anchored VWAP, that would be huge. SMH. Let's take a look at Big Brother to the SMH. That's going to be the XLK. Notice SMH quadrant 2, XLK quadrant 3. All right. Big Brother, a little leaner, a little meaner, a little stronger right here. Okay. XLK. Higher low, higher high. Closing in the neutral zone. Still not in the bullish zone, but definitely knocking on the door to the upper third. Up over the all-time high anchored VWAP, as opposed to SMH under the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay. XLK. Okay. Price action in an uptrend. Higher lows. Here's a low, higher low. There's a high, higher highs. Okay. So XLK in an uptrend, but still in the neutral zone. Okay. Like to see it nice hold over this all-time high anchored VWAP for XLK. Looking good here on XLK. Let's take a look at XLF. Okay, XLF holding the higher ground. That's a bullish environment. So far, let me just say, there's been a lot of bullish characteristics and a lot of bullish environment expressed in the market. Okay, and it's entirely possible that we are on our way back up to revisit those highs we left off in March or February. Okay, so just be prepared for something like that. Might take a little while, might not get there this week. We'll see what happens. I still see something missing, all right? And it's the backdrop. It's policy. It's, there's always something laying in the background. And I think we're waiting for certainty, okay? And it's going to have to come out of leadership, and I'm not seeing it yet. We're not getting any certainty. We're not getting any answers, all right? And I think if we got some answers, I think we could get some new all-time highs, all right, if we got some answers, all right? Just saying, I think that seems to be the holdup, all right? So there's XLF up in the upper third. That's bullish. That's looking ready to go over the all-time high anchored VWAP. In an uptrend, higher low, higher high. So that's looking good. XLK is looking good. SMH, not so much, but it's coming along. T2123, looking good. All right, but still on the bigger time frame, not quite there. We don't have the higher highs yet. FNG A and B, they're looking good. All right, but still not up over that all-time high anchored VWAP yet. Okay, that's not the all-time high. Okay, let's go back. I'll show you where the all-time high is. Let's just take a look. FNGA. Okay, this is the all-time high anchored VWAP, but there's nothing to say that we couldn't use this one right here. Okay, they're all about the same. They're all on the same latitude up here, 700. All right. So in reality, yeah, we are up over a high, okay, or up over a high anchored VWAP. It's not the all-time high, but it's still significant. Okay, so we're looking good. We could see a really nice move. Okay, that's huge being up over this high right here. I mean, this is not far from the all-time high. So as everything's looking good, we're just waiting for something to happen here. We'll see what happens. Take a look at the last one. IYT, transports. All right, transports probably the worst of all of them, along with IWM. IYT here just crossed the threshold into the neutral zone about 4 days ago. Notice here's the lower third. They just broke out 4 days ago. Price action currently holding higher ground, currently making higher highs. So it's an uptrend. It's a weak uptrend. It's not very significant. Still underneath all-time high anchored VWAP. Still underneath the midpoint. And let's face it, they just walked through the door. Okay, they don't even know if it's cold outside. Okay, so there's IYT. All right, so this one's got a long ways to go. Same with IWM. All right, so, but we do have a lot of components there to put together a nice rally. All right, is this the rally? I don't know. We'll find out. I think there's still further to go based on T2122. We'll see. All right, that's a lot of bullish price action right there. We'll see. If you're going to buy back the dip, you would want a premium for that dip. In other words, you would want a 2-for-1 reward for buying the dip. And maybe it is coming. We'll see. All right. Let's take a look at our economic package. All right. For max pain for SPY today is 560 with 1.2 puts to each call that expired today. Okay. Not much of a put squeeze on the table. and 560 is max pain. We're nowhere near it, although the second leg down can sometimes be the fastest in the consolidation period. All right, we'll see what happens. All right, so there's SPY options that expired today. All right, let's take a look at the dollar. Dollar's still in a downtrend. Again, we're making lower highs and lower lows, so it's still in a downtrend. We've broken major support here, and we're consolidating underneath it in a pennant. All right, hopefully we can make another lower low. We'll see what happens. Currently, we're consolidating under minor support, which means to me, it almost seems like they want to come back up through. So there's the US dollar still in a downtrend. We like that. On the economic calendar, yesterday was the main event, FOMC and the press conference. Today we got 8:30, jobless claims, productivity and costs at 8:30, gas report at 10. So really light day today, all right? We already had the job situation on last Friday, okay? And it was very good, all right? So jobless claims not really going to matter much today unless they're way out of line. Friday, nothing but a rig count and a bunch of Fed speakers, but none of them were Mr. Powell. So light day. Wherever we're going today, look for a continuation for tomorrow. I think we're going to have consolidation. We'll see what happens. All right, that's what I think we're in for. So we could see a pullback today and then some more bullishness tomorrow. We'll see what happens here. On the earnings calendar, okay, for today, Thursday, Shopify reports this morning, 127 billion. That'll probably be good. Anheuser-Busch, Bud, 118 billion. ConocoPhillips, 111 billion. Everybody else, definitely notables here, but nothing that's going to move the market. Some familiar names. Cheniere Energy, okay, Coinbase, all right, Canadian Natural Resources, all right, a lot of familiar names here, but nothing that's really going to move the markets, not like those big cap stocks inside the FNGU, FNGA, all right. For Friday, what do we got? We've got Enbridge, 101 billion, and that's it. Everybody else, just some familiar names, that's it. Okay, familiar names coming out tomorrow. That's it. Alan, thank you for the jobless claims. Alan is one of our posters in the room here, and he consistently posts the economic data. I am grateful to have him in the room. Thank you. All right, so that's it for today. I will take questions in the room. If not, how we're going to trade SPY. Well, pretty much came up with it. I think I just spelled it out earlier. All right. Let's take a look. SPY. Let's take a look at it with the pre-market on this time. All right. Okay, 567.50. All right. Let's put a line up there. 567.50. Okay, that's our known resistance. See right here? And if we back way out on the 65-minute chart, you can see we've hit that area before, back before the big dip. Okay? And we spent some time underneath it. Actually about 3 weeks underneath it. Okay? That means we're not going to move through it in 10 minutes. All right? You can see we got underneath it. Spend some more time right here. Okay? It's known resistance up there. Okay? That's now that you see it on the bigger time frame, let's go back to the 10-minute and look at it on the smaller time frame. Okay? It will take us a while to get through this. We may have to come back and visit the lower part of the zone, which is this 557.50. See how we come down here? We banged along right there. So we may be coming back here. So look for a triple test, just like here, or maybe even a double test, and then a possible trip back down to this 557.50 area. Usually on the second trip down, they like to dip it a little bit lower, all right, in the consolidation. So you can see the low here, 556.50. They will probably dip it a little bit lower on the second trip down if they decide to do it. All right, meaning they will probably come all the way down here and fill the gap. All right, and then bounce back up in the other direction. All right, so remember, the second leg down is typically much faster than the first leg down. All right, so it could take us all of 3 hours to get all the way back down here. We'll see what happens. This is the 10-minute chart. You can see we're banging along up here. Look for a double top, triple top on the 10-minute, and then a possible breakdown could happen. We'll see. If they get up there and hold the higher ground, that will be interesting. All right? So far, that's what they're doing. But then again, it's just the pre-market. All right? So we'll see what happens. All right? If they hold the higher ground, I'll be interested in trading the breakout. That would be the green erases red. All right? This would be the red right here. Okay? That pullback from that high down to this low. So I would want to see this break. Probably want to even see a rubber band candle break before getting into it, because I already know this is resistance up here. So trading bullishly into resistance is doesn't usually benefit everybody all the time. All right, so just be careful up here. All right, trading into resistance is not the best place. Trading from a lower position, like a trend line, up into resistance has much more momentum and is much easier to take. Getting up here, you're at the ceiling. It's like jumping in a ceiling that's only 6 foot 2 inches high. Okay, you wind up hurting your head. I'm just saying, be careful up here. This is not the place to take a bullish trade unless you see it consolidate up here for 8 to 12 hours, 8 hours, couple of 4-hour candles, anyways. Okay, need to see it consolidate up there for a couple of candles. All right, so we'll see what happens. All right, this is not the place to take a bullish trade up at the top. Okay, off the trend line, yes. Up here at the top, no. Not until you see it break through and hold. All right, you want it to break through, hold, then we'll be interested in it. All right, taking a bullish position here. You can see it's already starting to come down. They'll probably make a little higher low and then come back up. All right, so that's how I plan to trade SPY today. I'll be looking for the 10-minute downtrend under VWAP to hit it hard. All right, on a trip back down to the pivot 559.40. All right, that's it for me for today. I'll see everybody in the room in about 35-40 minutes, and we'll get the market open up.